Hey, it's your old pal, Dr. Steve, and welcome to the SARS-CoV-2 COVID-19 Updated Situation Report for August 2, 2020. This is the 15th in a mostly weekly series. Previous episodes are available and have general information about the current pandemic, antivirals, vaccine, and basic science that are not covered on a weekly basis. Okay, let's get started with the current statistics that we're following. So the world is looking at 17 million cases. United States at 4.6 million, approximately 1.4% of our population, which means 98.6% of the population has not been infected. Brazil at 2.7 million, at 1.293% of their population. Then India has taken over third place at 1.75 million cases. New daily deaths in the United States is increasing. You can see a significant upslope. And new daily cases was increasing and now is leveling off, so we would expect the deaths to start to level off as well. Now, you remember the R sub T, average number of people who become infected by an infectious person using real-life data. And remember, if it's 1, you'll have linear increase because 100 people will give 100 people, will infect 100 people and so on. So you'll get a straight line. When the R sub T is greater than 1, you'll see rapid spread. And you'll see a really geometric curve start to form the higher it gets. When R sub T is less than 1, the virus will stop spreading because, if it's 0.9, 1,000 people will give it to 900, we'll give it to 810, we'll give it to 720. So it doesn't disappear overnight, but it starts to decline. So this was 5 weeks ago. And here it was 4 weeks ago. You could see that more states had R sub T's greater than or equal to 1. And then 2 weeks ago, it was about 5/6 of the states had R sub T's greater than 1. And then, there was some locking down. People got a little more serious about this. You can see that the states in the green are starting to march forward again. What our goal is for this whole graph to be green. So we've got a ways to go. Our case curve confirms that the R sub T in the United States is close to 1. And that we can see that here. Even the highest that 2 weeks ago was Montana. Their R sub T was 1.3. So they're all very close to 1, and that's confirmed by this case curve, which is linear in its increase. Remember, you would see an exponential curve if the R sub T was greater than 1, and a flattening curve when R sub T is less than 1. And it will be a horizontal line when the transmission stops. So when this thing is over, the line will be horizontal because there will be no more cases. But this accumulative curve is curve of total cases. New York, their new cases have leveled off. They're not declining, but they're level. But total deaths or new deaths are slowly declining, which is good. California's new cases increasing somewhat over time. But their new deaths are increasing somewhat steadily right now, although the absolute number is relatively low. It's still a tragedy. Every single one. I had 131 deaths on the day that I recorded this. But let's look at total deaths in the top 9, because we hear a lot about cases and how some of the states are having increasing cases. But it's interesting also to look at total deaths. So the top 9, New York is number 1 at 32,000 deaths. New Jersey, 15,000 deaths. California, 9,000. But you can also see that New York right now seems to have a pretty good handle on things because they had 32,000 deaths overall, but yesterday only had 5. So that's excellent. The top 9 are New York, New Jersey, California, Massachusetts, Illinois, Pennsylvania, then Florida, Texas, and then Michigan. All right, drug news. Favipiravir, finally, phase 3 results. This was by the manufacturer. Now, remember, Favipiravir is a broad-spectrum RNA-dependent polymerase blocker, which just stops viral replication. That's what you need to know. It just stops the virus from being able to replicate. This was an open-label, randomized, multi-center trial. Favipiravir plus standard care versus standard care alone. And there were only, in this is just sort of top-level data, 150 patients at 7 sites. And the treatment arm got 3,600 milligrams on day 1 and then 1,600 milligrams every day up to 14 days. If anybody out there has taken azithromycin, you kind of recognize this, where you take, the standard prescription for azithromycin is take 2 now and then take 1 a day until you're done. So it's the same thing. They're loading them up on the first day and then giving them a constant dose thereafter. And then in the non-treatment arm got standard supportive care. So here's the results. There was 28.6% faster viral clearance versus controls and a statistically significant faster time to clinical improvement. And a 40% faster clinical cure. Cure was defined as resolution of symptoms and fever. 70% experienced clinical cure by day 4, as opposed to 45% in the control group, and that was statistically significant at p of 0.019. So that means 19 times out of 1,000. This could be just by blind error. It's not highly statistically significant, but it does meet the criteria for statistical significance, which is a p of 0.02 or less. Adverse events were mild to moderate. There were 26 patients in the treatment group. 17% had adverse effects. It did not prevent them from taking the drug. 6 in the control group. So even placebos have adverse effects. So we're waiting for more data from the Favipiravir studies, but it's starting to roll out now, and I'm very glad to see that. The Henry Ford hydroxychloroquine study was interesting. It was a large scale, but retrospective, meaning looking in the past, a chart review, analysis of 2,541 patients. They were hospitalized between March 10th and May 2nd. 13 of the patients that were treated with hydroxychloroquine alone died, compared to 26.4% not treated with hydroxychloroquine. Now, these were sick patients in the hospital. The vast majority received the drug soon after admission, and there were no cardiac abnormalities. We've been worried that hydroxychloroquine will cause torsade de pointes, which is a very unusual heart rhythm characterized by a varying axis on the EKG, and there was none of that in this study. The authors agreed, however, that this study requires confirmation in prospective randomized controlled trials. So this is not a perfect study, but it is good enough to make you think, wow, we probably need to look at this a little bit closer, and further studying is warranted in that case. All right, that's all I've got for you this week. Listen, be smart. Continue your physical distancing. Wash your hands. Soap is better than gel, but gel's better than nothing. And cloth face coverings still matter. So please wear your face masks. Remember, your face mask protects me and mine protects you. Don't lose hope. Light at the end of the tunnel. Very encouraged by the Favipiravir study so far. Check out our Twitter at Weird Medicine, podcast at thelaughbutton.com/podcasts, or at drsteve.com. SiriusXM on the Faction Talk channel on demand, or Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, Sundays at 5 p.m. Eastern. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you in 3 weeks. No, that's not right. See you in 1 week for the next edition of the Weird Medicine COVID-19 Situation Report. Take care, everybody.